Ancient legends and fairy tales often tell of enormous men and women who were much larger and taller than us, fiercely fighting or devouring people. They describe them as recluses living in the mountains or wooded areas. These giants are mentioned not only in fairy tales but also in prehistoric texts and religious scriptures. The history of ancient Greece contains records of Heracles, David, Goliath, and other giants. It is interesting to consider how accurate and truthful these legends are. First of all, let's see if there is any real evidence of the existence of these unusually large people, and whether any serious research can be conducted on this issue in order to separate facts from fiction. The very first historical records about giants date back to the time of the Sumerian civilization, which existed at the beginning of the Bronze Age. As seen from the carved figures and statues, the Sumerians considered these giants to be their kings or gods, possessing incredible physical as well as intellectual abilities. According to Babylonian chronicles, these kings had detailed knowledge of the solar system. This brings us to the question of where these giants came from. Ancient people called them gods, and it was believed that they arrived on arks or ships and survived the Great Flood. According to scientists, the first prehistoric humans could have been of gigantic size because before the Great Flood, the atmospheric conditions on Earth were suitable for much larger people with longer lifespans. Ecologist Dr. Carl Baugh and his team conducted a biosphere experiment simulating the atmosphere and ozone layer around the Earth before the Great Flood, and the fish species they experimented on grew to much larger sizes than usual. This theory supports the hypothesis of the great size of prehistoric creatures, and since scientists have not yet reached a consensus on when humans first appeared, the version that in prehistoric times they had gigantic height and size is quite plausible. In addition to mentions of giants in the Bible, special attention should be given to the works of the Jewish historian Josephus Flavius. In 3 of his books, the existence of a race of giants is mentioned. Besides the Bible, these works are perhaps the most convincing argument in favor of their existence. All of these books present stories of real people who encountered giants. Flavius, in a passage about how the Israelites moved their camp to Hebron, mentions that the Jews encountered the inhabitants of this land, including a race of giants who had such large bodies and faces so different from other people that they inspired fear and terror just by their appearance. Today, many archaeologists build theories and guesses about the origin of huge megalithic ruins around the world. Why did people need to build such enormous living spaces? And how did they move stones weighing several hundred tons? The answer is simple. Either they possessed technologies unknown to us, or they were so huge and strong that constructing such monumental buildings was not difficult for them. In Peru, there is a stone mystery called Sacsayhuaman, the ruins of an Inca-era citadel. Its huge stones, weighing up to 200 tons each, which were used for construction, were cut, installed, and fitted together with such precision that today it all looks like a giant stone puzzle. It is not difficult to imagine that a race of super strong giants was behind the construction of this structure. Even now, thousands of years later, modern thinkers, engineers, and scientists cannot give a definitive answer to the question of how ancient humans were able to build some of the most stunning megalithic monuments around the world. There are many reports that archaeologists have found very large bones, weapons, or other artifacts that could only have been used by giants. It is assumed that Stonehenge was built by giants because the stones are too large and heavy for people of ordinary height and physical strength to move and manipulate without the help of special machines. Similar examples exist in many cultures when it comes to structures that could not have been erected without cranes or other machines, which ancient people did not have available. Archaeologists' arguments should be treated with skepticism. We may not know how Stonehenge was built, but our lack of knowledge does not automatically prove that giants did it. In 1891, workers digging the foundation for a new building in Arizona came across a huge stone coffin, inside which was found a skeleton about 3 meters tall that had almost turned to dust. Then, in 1883, soldiers digging a pit in California stumbled upon the remains of a 3.5-meter giant with a double row of teeth in the lower and upper jaws. Giant bones were also found in other countries. In Romania, for example, reports of giant human remains nearly 5 meters tall, discovered quite recently in the 1970s, caused a great stir. The length of just the leg bones reached 2 meters. These are just a few examples of traces of giants found by researchers, but they turned out to be so ancient that during the process of extracting them from burial sites, most of them turned to dust. Mummified remains of giants were also discovered, dating back thousands of years, with their height ranging from 2 to 4 meters. Most of these excavations were conducted in the 19th century. Additionally, according to researcher Stephen Quayle, underground tunnel dwellings with giant skeletons have been found throughout South America, the Middle East, and the northwest of the USA. The authenticity of this photo, of course, is questionable. But who knows, perhaps the giants that once existed looked exactly like this. Maybe they could have looked like the giant in this photo. But there are currently no scientifically proven facts from scientists and historians confirming their existence. Some giant-sized artifacts are displayed in museums, but the vast majority of them, especially the largest and most striking examples, are actually just myths, except for eyewitness accounts that cannot be verified. Many researchers explain the lack of irrefutable evidence with stories about their concealment by the government, sudden floods, or construct other convenient conspiracy theories. The conspiracy theory surrounding the vanished race of giants suggests that the bones of their skeletons always mysteriously disappeared as soon as official organizations got involved. And the question remains pressing whether giants truly existed on Earth, and if they did, where did they go? Either they followed the same path as the dinosaurs and became extinct due to atmospheric conditions, or they engaged in fierce battles and killed each other, as some historians claim, or they became cruel in power and wealth-hungry, like the inhabitants of many other ancient civilizations that destroyed themselves. Be that as it may, the question of the existence of giants still remains open and holds many secrets and mysteries. We can only guess whether people who were completely different from us in height, size, and strength existed before us, or if all of this is just beautiful legends and fantasies of storytellers. Should we believe prehistoric chronicles and unverified eyewitness accounts of real excavations of giant remains? Perhaps someday scientists will make sensational discoveries confirming the existence of giants, or completely refute this theory. For now, we can only speculate.